certainly, abrogation of Article 370 has been upheld by the Supreme Court. Article 370 is now history and something which cannot be ever restored. Let me bring in Sarfaraz Wani, advocate of Jammu and Kashmir High Court and also a member of National Conference. Remember, National Conference was one of the petitioners. We have Vijayta Singh, deputy editor of The Hindu, Ashutosh Srivastava, advocate of the Supreme Court, also Kamal Haq, Kashmiri Pandit, and Aditi Fadnis, a senior journalist. Vijayta, beginning with you, the big takeaways, of course, would be that abrogation of Article 370 has been upheld, but also a timeline that has been set that the Election Commission of India must hold elections in Jammu and Kashmir by September of 2024.
A while ago that Jammu and Kashmir had an elected government till 5 years ago. But I would like to point out that the last time the elections were held in Jammu and Kashmir was in 2014. So it is almost 9 years. And the government keeps promoting this this idea that we have conducted panchayat elections, we have conducted DDC elections, but even the terms of the panchayats and the DDCs, they are also about to come to an end, and there is no sign of elections. And if you have to conduct elections, and if you're talking about grassroots democracy, there is no urgency which I see in the government circles in holding the elections. And when Jammu and Kashmir's statehood was snatched and it was divided into 2 union territories, the Union Home Minister had made a promise on the floor of the House that its statehood will be restored soon. And during a debate in the Parliament last week, also there was no direct reply to this question as to when the elections will be held. Now the Supreme Court has set a date. September 30, 2024, by which the elections are to be held. So we have to see if government, this does not fit well with the government's contention that normalcy has returned in Kashmir and there is peace and there is security. Then why aren't you holding elections? Why are people forced to go to bureaucrats for their smallest of work? Because there is no representation of theirs in Kashmir, and if you speak to people there are a lot of problems because bureaucracy cannot be a solution for day-to-day problems of the people.
Okay. In fact, there are several tweets that have come in now of petitioners, politicians of the valley, and who had made this certainly a talking point for years. And there is a final closure, I would say, to this story, which has been there for very, very long. Mr. Haq, would you say that this is an end of a dark chapter in Jammu and Kashmir's history? Kamal Haq?
Maria, this is definitely a very significant day, a very important judgment delivered by the Supreme Court today, which normally should have closed this discussion once for all. But I think Mr. Ghulam Nabi Azad gave you a little bit sample of what's going to happen in Kashmir. As Nazir sometimes back rightly mentioned that the people, this abrogation of Article 370 was dead, but people were just.
Parliament is supreme, and all the provisions of the Constitution of India are applicable in the context of Jammu and Kashmir. So therefore, the Jammu and Kashmir is now integral part, and it is the Constitution which has accepted this position under the Constitution. The second thing, that the State Reorganization Act 2019 has also been upheld. Now the only caveat the Honorable Supreme Court has said that the Jammu and Kashmir has to be restored its statehood, and the election, in terms of the statement of the Solicitor General, they have said that election must be held by 30th September 2024 and Jammu and Kashmir must be restored statehood. Whereas they have also upheld that Ladakh will remain union territory and there is no illegality, no invalidity so far Ladakh is union territory of the country. The third aspect is that they have said that Constitution and the President has power to issue proclamation, and the proclamation issued in 2018 is valid, and Constitution Assembly, the Constituent Assembly advice is advisory body, it is not binding on the Parliament, meaning thereby the view, the decision of the Indian Parliament is binding on the Jammu and Kashmir and the Jammu Kashmir government, Jammu Kashmir legislatures. So therefore the today's judgment is a historic judgment, and it has proved that our Prime Minister and the Honorable Home Minister, they had very categorically said that the Jammu Kashmir is integral part of India.
Yes.
And it was the manifesto of Bharatiya Janata Party.
A lot of reactions coming in from the Supreme Court as well, as lawyers are speaking. We have Arvind, who was inside the courtroom when this judgment was being pronounced. Arvind, expected reactions coming from the political class as well. National Conference leaders, Umar Abdullah and others, saying that they are disappointed but not disheartened, and the struggle will continue. What does it actually mean? I mean, in the sense that Article 370 is now history, and with the Supreme Court clearly saying that abrogation of Article 370, a decision of the Parliament and the Union government, was a valid one.
Maria, if you could read the judgment, it's not just about merely upholding the decision of the central government in abrogation of Article 370. But the reasoning for that conclusion that was given by Supreme Court is very important. That clearly takes away the basic foundation of some of the political parties in Jammu and Kashmir. So at least judicially, there seems to be no room left for all these political parties to fight this particular battle, at least in Supreme Court, because Supreme Court has held in a unanimous view that Article 370 was a temporary provision. That has been held unanimously by Supreme Court Constitution bench. That's one thing. Second thing, very importantly, on the very aspect that Article 370 could not have been abrogated by centre unilaterally without the consult of the state or the Constituent Assembly. For that particular question also, Supreme Court has given a direct answer saying that Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir was also a temporary provision that was formed only to frame the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir, and the moment the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir was framed, it ceases to exist. So that's a very important conclusion that has been given by Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has also upheld the powers of the President, that President has the power to issue this particular presidential order to abrogate Article 370. The only thing that the centre has found fault in centre's overall work on this particular aspect under Article 370 was a slightly interpretation that was given by the centre through this very presidential order. Using Article 370, centre amended Article 367 to interpret that Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir shall be read as Legislative Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. That alone Supreme Court has held it ultra virus. That alone Supreme Court has quashed it, saying that centre could not have used Article 370 to amend Article 367, indirectly to amend Article 370. That means to name Constituent Assembly as Legislative Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir. For which Supreme Court has said that though this particular process of centre is wrong, but Supreme Court has held that there was no need to do that also, because President himself has the power under the Constitution to revoke to issue this particular presidential order revoking Article 370 that granted special status to Jammu and Kashmir. So overall on Article 370, Supreme Court has completely upheld the action of centre. Coming on the aspect of bifurcation of Jammu and Kashmir, even to that particular aspect also, Supreme Court has upheld the carving out of Ladakh as a separate union territory, for which Supreme Court has refused to intervene. But on the issue of degradation of Jammu and Kashmir as an union territory, for which Supreme Court has said that we are not entering that particular domain for now, because Solicitor General for appearing for the central government has himself told the Supreme Court that very soon at the earliest statehood of Jammu and Kashmir will be restored. So on that particular aspect also, Supreme Court has not intervened. But Supreme Court has given a direction to the Election Commission of India to conduct elections in Jammu and Kashmir by September 2024. So the crux or the big takeaways from today's judgment is abrogation of Article 370 upheld. Supreme Court has directed Election Commission to conduct elections in Jammu and Kashmir by September 30th, 2024. Supreme Court has refused to intervene on the aspect of carving out of Ladakh as a separate union territory. But the statehood status of Jammu and Kashmir should be restored at the earliest as per the submission of centre.
And political reactions also have started coming in, Arvind. As you said, it's elaborately the Supreme Court has looked at each and every point that was made by the petitioners and has given, dismissed those points, and it's a unanimous verdict. And when the CJI, Arvind, when he started the entire proceedings today, he said that there are 3 judgments which will be read. Could you give us details on that, and then finally it appearing to be this way? What exactly was the confusion in the beginning?
Maria, there were 3 judgments that were authored by 3 separate judges. Chief Justice Chandrachud authored a judgment for himself, for Justice Gawai and for Justice Suryakant. So that forms the majority view. Justice Sanjeev Khanna also wrote a separate judgment but concurring with the view of the Chief Justice, and also Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul also wrote a separate judgment. He also concurred with the majority view of CJ. So 3 judgments, but all the 3 judgments are concurring judgments. That's where in an unanimous view, Supreme Court has upheld abrogation of Article 370. Supreme Court has upheld the action of Centre to carve out Ladakh as a separate union territory. Supreme Court has not entered the domain of granting the union territory status to degradation of Jammu and Kashmir as a union territory. For that, Supreme Court has refused to enter because Centre itself has told Supreme Court that they will restore the status. Only direction that Supreme Court has given, the materialistic direction, unanimous view is to Election Commission of India to hold elections in Jammu and Kashmir by September 30th. So it's an unanimous view, but 3 separate judgments concurring.
Okay, so unanimous verdict coming in from the apex court. Arvind, will keep coming back to you. Continue to stay with us. Let me bring in Aditi Phadnis as well. So the conclusions which are part of the essence of this judgment becomes very important, Aditi. It says that the state of Jammu and Kashmir does not retain any element of sovereignty after the execution of the IOA and issuance of proclamation dated 25th November 1949 by the Constitution of India. The state of Jammu and Kashmir does not have internal sovereignty which is distinguishable from the powers and privileges enjoyed by other states, and hence Article 370 was a feature of asymmetric federalism and not sovereignty. I think elaborately it has gone on to look at every aspect of the points that were questioned by the petitioners. Please go ahead, Aditi.
I think it's a comprehensive defeat for those who were questioning the centre's action. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to go too deeply into the legal implications of the Supreme Court's order. But politically, I think this is going to have a very profound impact on the politics of J&K. A hint of that was given by a clip by Ghulam Nabi Azad. That's one part of it. The second part of it is the kind of a cracker that has been left off by Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul by his suggestion that there should be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission and transitional justice should be secured for state and, those who are affected by the actions of both state and non-state actors. If this suggestion is accepted by the centre, and there is while J&K is still a union territory, there is a Truth and Reconciliation Commission set up. I am really not sure how that will go in the politics of J&K. So that's one part of it. Second part of it is, of course, National Conference and others were petitioners and they questioned the whole judgment. And how they will now frame their politics in the changed circumstances, we have to watch that.
Yes, certainly. And an answer to that may come from Sarfaraz Wani, advocate of Jammu and Kashmir High Court and also a member of the National Conference, because it has said very clearly that the power of the parliament cannot be just restricted to law-making, and it has the power also to interpret its limitations. So I think that becomes important. These are important parts of that judgment on your television screens. Go ahead, Mr. Wani.
Just clarifying one point, I'm an independent political analyst. I don't belong to any political party.
All right, Sarfaraz, go ahead.
See, as we have already been debating since years, that this is a question of India's federalism. The very nature of India's federal structure is under challenge. So in a way, I am very disappointed by the judgment that this has given a license to the central government to do anything. Now, central government can go on with any state of India, reduce that to a union territory, impose president's rule, assume the powers of the legislature, and in a sense, take away all the powers of the state. So this is some way with unexpected judgment. As a student of law, as a student of constitution, I was not expecting such a judgment, because in a sense, you have given license to the government to
Okay.
India's federal structure, which in a sense, in Keshwanda Bharati's case, has been held to be a part of basic structure of the constitution. So I don't know, maybe for the sake of the national interest, maybe for the sake of collective this security issue, Supreme Court has come, but this is legally not a justifiable judgment.
Okay, so you think that it's not legally justifiable, Ashutosh? The Supreme Court has said very clearly that the centre may not consult the state government. The parliament may not go with the views of the state government, and that has been one of the points that was raised by the parties in the valley.
The parliament has followed all the due process of law, whatever has been stated in the constitution of this country. So there is no any other thought about it. As long as my friend says about taking away the state and by the central government and utilizing it, so far as that is concerned, as per the provision, because Article 356 has also been interpreted by the Supreme Court, and that also has been upheld as of now, and there is no kind of any ulterior motive or bona fide intentions which have been found by or maybe observed by the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court is of the view that whatever has happened has been done with the proper following of the due process of law. So far as the elections are concerned, so far as statehood is concerned, obviously the time has been given so that the elections should take place by September 2024. So that is not an issue. Now, Article 370, the Supreme Court has clearly stated that it was temporary in nature, and that is the reason why it was kept in Part 21 of the Constitution, which is meant only for the provisions of laws which are temporary in nature and which are transitional, which can be later, can be amended. And apart from that, the most important aspect, which we should not forget, and the Supreme Court also observed, is the proclamation declared by Yuvraj Karan Singh, who is the son of the ruler of Jammu and Kashmir, Hari Singh, who had given a proclamation that the state of Jammu and Kashmir shall follow the Constitution of India, and also the successors and legal heirs will also follow the same.
Okay.
And this proclamation was made on 25th of November 1949.
Just hold on to your thoughts, Ashutosh. Mr. Nadda has actually put out a tweet welcoming the Supreme Court's judgment. He has gone on to say that Prime Minister Modi's government's decisions have been in the interest of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and he says that crores of our workers express heartfelt gratitude to the Prime Minister. This remains our top focus here on NDTV. We are stepping into a short break. And Prime Minister Modi has now tweeted, that tweet is on your television screens. He says, today's Supreme Court verdict on the abrogation of Article 370 is historic and constitutionally upholds the decision taken by the Parliament of India on 5th of August 2019. It's a resounding declaration of hope, progress and unity for our sisters and brothers in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The court, in its profound wisdom, has fortified the very essence of unity that we as Indians hold dear and cherish above all. Prime Minister Modi goes on to say, I want to assure the resilient people of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh that our commitment to fulfilling your dreams remains unwavering. We are determined to ensure that fruits of progress not only reach you, but also extend their benefits to the most vulnerable and marginalized sections of a society who suffered due to Article 370. The verdict Today is not just a legal judgment, it's a beacon of hope, a promise of a brighter future, and a testament to our collective resolve to build a stronger, more united India. It's about with that hashtag of Naya Jammu and Kashmir. So the Prime Minister hailing this verdict, of course, now the top court has said that Article 370 was a temporary provision, and clearly there was no need to consult the state government is also something that the Supreme Court has said. Vijayata continues to be with us. So Vijayata, I think for the Prime Minister to say that that this is about beacon of hope and a promise of a brighter future, do you think that timeline that has been given, where the Supreme Court has directed the Election Commission of India to conduct elections in Jammu and Kashmir by September 2024, becomes important, because that will set the stage for that entire electoral process to be kicked in?
Yeah, since the court has set a date, it becomes imperative for the government to follow that order. But there is no, it's not binding upon the government to strictly follow that deadline. They can even conduct the elections even like earlier, say simultaneously with the Lok Sabha elections. And because this is a primary condition that has been set to restore the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir. And for that to happen, I don't see, because if you speak to officials and if you speak to security officials in J&K, everyone says that, you know, our apparatus is ready, everything is ready. We're just waiting for a political call to conduct elections. Even on the floor of the House in Lok Sabha last week, MOS personnel Jitendra Singh, who represents Jammu in Lok Sabha, he also said that we're just waiting for directions from the ECI. So I think this election is not being held back for security reasons or for any other reasons. It's just the political will that is missing. And if the government of the day decides and has EC calls a meeting, I don't see why the elections cannot be held in J&K, because you need representation in the legislative assembly, in the legislature. Where is the voice of the people? We don't hear. And LG cannot be confused with an elected chief minister. So we need to see that the aspirations of the people are reflected in the assembly. And why should J&K be an exception to this democratic setup where all the other states and UTs have which have an elected legislative assembly.
So now that date has been set, with the Supreme Court clearly saying, Mr. Haq, that the elections must be completed by September 2024. What does it do to the politics of all those parties of the valley which have been, which has been largely around opposition to this move by the center?
Maria, you need to understand all the mess that was created in Kashmir for the last 70 years was due to these people's representatives, so-called people's representatives. I think while appreciating the judgment of Supreme Court, I have somehow a feeling that it has failed to understand the nuances of the public mindset in Kashmir. Kashmir, despite the fact that Article 370 has been removed, the death certificate has been issued by the Supreme Court today. But will the local politicians of Kashmir, whether mainstream Ghulam Nabi Azad or the separatist Mehbooba Mufti or the autonomy proponent Farooq Abdullah, allow the burial of Article 370? I think no. Kashmir has vulnerabilities. Kashmir has an atmosphere which is not very strong as of now, fragile at the moment. This election, in a just span of 1 year, within 1 year, will try to exploit those vulnerabilities that exist in Kashmir. I think in its all wisdom, we cannot challenge what Supreme Court found at what in its wisdom it delivered. For me as a Kashmiri, for me as a person who understands the psyche of the Kashmiri, the person who has lived through this turmoil in Kashmir, I feel elections, though important, I don't deny that elections should not be there, but I think within a span of around 8-10 months is not a good idea for it to happen. But anyway, Supreme Court has delivered its judgment, and it's for the government to respond and to see if they can do it. It would have been a good idea to hold the elections if the people of Kashmir, especially, I'm not talking about the people, the politicians of people would have taken a stand, accepting their humility or maybe whatever, that, okay, now this is finally dusted, now let us respond differently to it. You would have seen whether it is National Conference, whether this is PDP, Mehbooba Mufti, whether this is Ghulam Nabi Azad, parroting the same objections, the same narrative that they have been parroting for the last 72 years, despite the fact the realities are totally different now. Now, this mindset and this philosophy will reshape the atmosphere in Kashmir, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a different.
So the big question now is, Aditi, what does it do to the politics of the parties which have been from Kashmir, Mehbooba Mufti's PDP, or National Conference of Omar Abdullah and Farooq Abdullah? Because those are the visuals coming in of celebrations which are happening of Kashmiri Pandits particularly, because certainly it will be seen as a historic day for the larger integration, sentiments.
Well, I think some things have been dead and buried. One of them is the statement by Atal Bihari Vajpayee about protection of Jamhuriyat, Kashmiriyat, Insaniyat. So now we have to see whether that is dead or whether that is going to be upheld by the government. Basically, the central government now that there's no assembly. So that's one part of it. How that is encapsulated, how it is expressed, how it is rolled out in the politics of the state, we still have to see. The second part is, of course, it is undeniable that Jammu and Kashmir or Kashmir is majority Muslim. So that fact is there right in front of us. We have to see how the ideas of a Muslim majority in a Hindu majority nation, how the ideas are now rolled out, how they are ideated, and what does this mean now for the state in politics. So I'm really not sure how it is all going to be rolled out. I'm sure the National Conference will be conducting meetings to figure out what they're going to do now, as also Mehbooba Mufti.
Yes.
Whether they're going to join forces, whether they're going to continue on their separate paths. And also, I will look forward to hearing what the Jama Masjid or the main masjid in Kashmir, in Srinagar, says about.
Yes. So going forward in 2024 elections, will this become a major poll plank for the BJP? That is the big question. And also, what does it do to this entire argument of, national integration as well? Can that be the consolidation pitch going ahead? Because there is a narrative which is being set, Article 370 victory, then you have the Ram Temple, the inauguration that will happen on January 22nd, all this being leading up to the elections that will happen in the month of May. Ashutosh and Sarfaraz, quick 30 seconds to you. Beginning with you, Sarfaraz, will this lead to some kind of reimagination of politics of the parties which are largely valley-based?
Well, I think people have been dismayed, and you see, had people liked the decision of scrapping of 370, then Kargil autonomous election would have been won by the BJP. They suffered a bad loss there. The same will be the result in the assembly elections also, because people here do not like the decision. This is the reality. Even though it has been given a valid stamp by the Supreme Court, but you don't see celebrations of the Kashmiri Muslims or the majority population here. Might be Pandits are celebrating, might be some sections are celebrating, but a majority of population are not happy. They are not celebrating. You are not showing me any visuals right now from Lal Chowk where people are celebrating.
Okay. We'll try and get those visuals as well for you.
That Article 370 is gone and dusted.
We'll try and get those visuals as well. Quick 30 seconds to you. In fact, Home Minister Amit Shah has also responded. We'll be putting out his tweet also on air in just a bit, in which he's saying that he welcomes the Supreme Court of India's verdict upholding the decision to abolish Article 370. He says that on the 5th of August 2019, Prime Minister Modi took a visionary decision to abrogate Article 370. Since then, peace and normalcy have returned to Jammu and Kashmir. Growth and development have been brought, and that has brought new meaning to the life of people. Prosperity in tourism and agriculture sectors has raised the income levels of the residents of both Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. So, and he also goes on to say that Supreme Court's verdict has proved that the decision to abrogate Article 370 was completely constitutional. Ashutosh, a quick 30 seconds and then I wrap up this discussion.
Yes, see, so far as people are concerned, as you had asked just now, I feel that they will basically focus on their future, on their betterment, on the development in the interest of themselves, their children, and overall development of the state and overall happiness, prosperity among themselves. That should be the priority I think they all will go for. The elections may come, and they accordingly, by the democratic system, they will choose the best leaders who can do much better for them, which would not have taken place for long years. And I really wish that this today's decision goes in the interest of all the people of this country, including all the citizens and people of Jammu and Kashmir. And this is what I feel they would be thinking about coming elections in 2024. And so far as the legality is concerned, we have already discussed and understood that whatever has taken place is as per the laws. This is what Supreme Court has held. It has examined each and every articles of the Constitution, whether it is 356, whether it is 368, and also 370, sub Article 3 of 370 has been properly examined and interpreted, and accordingly the Supreme Court has come to such a decision today, which I think is in the interest of this country.
All right, we'll continue to get you more reactions on this story. I would like to thank all the panelists who joined us to give perspective on this story. Certainly a big victory for the centre, as the Supreme Court has upheld the validity of order and of abrogating Article 370. The top court has said that Article 370 was a temporary provision, and certainly this is a big thumbs up for the Modi government. It goes on to say that there was no need to consult the state government, a point that has been raised by the petitioners. And also, a timeline has been set where the Supreme Court has asked the Election Commission of India to conduct elections in Jammu and Kashmir by September 2024. Lots of political reactions coming in. We'll continue to track this story very, very closely. Thanks so much for watching. News and updates on the other side.